All right, continuing on with cell biology, we are now in part 4, and we're going to talk about the differences between plant and animal cells. So this is really, we're going to focus on what's specific and unique in plant cells. So plant cells, most of them are going to have the same organelles, so as animal cells. So you're going to have your Golgi apparatus, right? You're going to have cytoplasm and rough ER. You're going to have a nucleus. You're going to have a nuclear envelope, smooth ER, ribosomes, etc. But there are going to be some pretty major differences between plant and animal cells. Plant cells have chloroplasts. This is for photosynthesis. Okay. Most are going to have a cell wall. This is for protection. Okay. Most are going to have a central vacuole. This is for storage. And some are going to have other plastids, which can be related to photosynthesis, but they're going to be they're going to make things, right? Kind of like chloroplasts do. Okay. So let's talk about each one of those individually. Cell walls are really, really important. They're not unique to plants, but what they're made of is unique to plants. So they're really hard, they're a rigid layer outside of the plasma membrane. So here the blue stuff is the plasma membrane, and this bright green stuff, that's your cell wall. Okay. They're going to be made of cellulose, which is a sugar, okay, that the plant makes itself, and some proteins. There are some plants out there that have a secondary cell wall or two cell walls. That secondary cell wall is going to eventually turn into what we know as bark. Okay. When plants have secondary cell walls, they're going to be made, they're going to harden, and then they're not going to be able to grow anymore. Okay. Unlike the primary cell wall, which is going to grow and expand with the cell. The second organelle that is unique to plants is the central vacuole. It's this big kind of circular thing in the middle. It's going to store large amounts of water. It's going to store enzymes. Sometimes it'll store waste, other materials. And what's going to happen is those other vacuoles or vesicles that we talked about in animal cells and eukaryotic cells, they'll fuse together. So as the cell creates a lysosome and kills something, it'll fuse with the central vacuole to get rid of it. In plant cells, the central vacuole, and this is not to scale, is going to take up about 90% of the cell's volume. Other vacuoles, like the peroxisomes or let's see what else, lysosomes, that kind of stuff, are going to store toxic materials for defense. Then there are some vacuoles that are going to store some pigments that you would find in things like petals in different types of plants. So the central vacuole is really for shape, rigidity, and it's going to store things. Other plastids that we might see in plant cells include chloroplasts. So chloroplasts are a type of plastid. Chloroplasts are used for photosynthesis. They have chlorophyll, which is kind of this green stuff. It's a pigment that makes leaves green. The cool thing about chloroplasts is they also have their own DNA. So independent of the plant's DNA, chloroplasts have chromosomes and have their own DNA, which is kind of cool. We also have chromoplasts, which sometimes contain pigments that may or may not be used in photosynthesis. So sometimes they'll have pigments like orange, red, purple, yellow, white. It just depends on where it is in the plant. If it's in a petal, if it's in a leaf, if it's in the stem, whatever. So a chromoplast is a type of plastid. And then you have lots of other things like amyloplasts, which might store starch. And starch is how plants are going to store the food that they make. So lots and lots of different types of plasmid, but the chloroplasts are the kind of number one need to know. So how are prokaryotes and eukaryotes different? This is kind of a review from the last part, but I thought it would be really nice to go here. So I'm going to draw a line and we're going to make it a little T-chart. So if you'll remember that prokaryotes have no nucleus, but eukaryotes have one. Prokaryotes have no membrane-bound organelles, but eukaryotes do have them. And I'm going to put membrane-bound organelles. Okay, things like Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, the nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast, things that have a membrane around them. Prokaryotes are also smaller than eukaryotes. They're more simple, whereas eukaryotes are going to be complex. But remember, both types of cells have cell membranes. They're going to have cytoplasm, and they're going to have nucleic acid or information, some kind of DNA in them in some way, shape, or form. And then lastly, let's compare plant and animal cells. Okay, so plant and animal cells, plant cells are going to have chloroplasts. Animal cells, none. Plant cells are going to have a cell wall. Animal cells, not so much. Plant cells are going to have a central vacuole. Animal cells, not so much. For the most part, plant cells are not going to have flagella. Okay, so no flagella, but animal cells, for the most part, can have flagella. Not all of them do. Okay, and we can put cilia in that as well. Plant cells are not going to move. Non-mobile, again, with one exception, and that's the sperm of some water-based plants. And animal cells, for the most part, have the ability to be mobile. Not all of them are going to actually move around, but they have the ability.